me that St. Simon's Town in Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa.
Somewhere deep in the hills, the mid-Atlantic, in central Pennsylvania, we come to you live. No fake news, no disinformation, no misinformation. We leave that to the government authorities. It's time now for your daily dose of the Secret Agent Man. Welcome back to the program, folks. It's Chris live in central Pennsylvania. What's up? What's up? What's up, my peeps? Hey, how y'all doing? How y'all doing? Anybody seen what's going on with our band there? P. Diddy Combs. Yeah, things not looking so good for him. Hey, herzlich willkommen bei unserer Sendung. Heute kommen wir aus Pennsylvania wieder. Ja, unsere Hauptstation hier in Pennsylvania. Und ich hoffe, dass alle findet euch in guter Laune. Ja, servus. Bienvenue à tous, je suis Chris, j'habite en Pennsylvanie, aux États-Unis. Je suis très heureux que vous êtes là encore avec nous pour notre transmission aujourd'hui. Nous avons aujourd'hui des actualités quotidiennes. Donc, on commence. Hello, folks. How's it going? It's Chris live in central Pennsylvania. Welcome back on a lovely, lovely Friday. The sun is shining here. It's nice to see the sun shining. It's very nice. It's been pretty crappy the past few days with overcast skies just destroying my effort to set records for solar generation this month. Welcome back, folks. Well, let's say hello to everybody in the chat. We'll get to the news. This will be a little bit shorter broadcast than usual. I've got some work to do. As always, don't forget next week programming out, folks. I will once again be at the War College doing consulting, so I won't be available for the in-studio broadcast Monday through Friday next week and the same the following week. However, I do intend to, if there's break time, as I've always done, I intend to give you a news wrap-up. So we'll see how that goes. All right, folks, let's see who's here in the chat. We've got Vilma Erasmus. Welcome, Vilma. Garrett Gillich is here. Teresa. Paulie, I like the Chris Wyatt logo in the video now. Huh? What logo? What you talking about, man? Next is the thought. Welcome back. It's been a while. Where have you been hiding at? Insane buffering my side. Yeah, South Africa's had some bad internet connection problems. Ooh, that's sticky. Ooh, that's not nice. I need some of that hand sanitizer. All right. Mr. Secret Agent Man. Communist Cuba is on the brink of collapse. Well, it's been there since 1960. So, Brendan Swart says, been lurking, watching for a while. I dig your hat. That's Leka. Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Brendan Swart. Yeah, this is a Tegela hat. I picked this one up in Pretoria at Linwood. That's where it was, Linwood Shopping Complex. They got a nice outdoor place there. This is a really nice hat. I love it. I have another one, which was a gift from one of my viewers, and I wear that one occasionally, but this is the one I wear more often. Yeah, so there you go. So I'm your intrepid explorer. All right, new solar tech foils. That's right, the South African Indiana Jones. That's right. You can call me Indy. Yeah, Indiana Jones. Wow, what a great career that was for Harrison Ford. Really launched him. Anyway, welcome back to the program, folks. Jacob Zuma is barred from running for election in 2024. Who knew? Well, I knew, and pretty much any other analyst could tell you the same thing. The South African law bars people who've been convicted of serious crimes over 15 or over 12 months from running for office, I believe for a period of 5 years. I think there's a sunset clause. I will stand for correction if that is incorrect. But regardless of the case, Jacob Zuma was convicted and sentenced to 15 months in prison for contempt of court on June 29th of 2021. So Jay-Z's out, and we knew this was happening. Also, I saw something earlier that said his son, Dudu Zane, or Dudu Zile, one of the daughter's son, his son was also barred from competing in an election. And that's just good news for folks. That's just good news. What's going on there? Let's get a leaky thing here. Hang on a second here. My Starbucks, which is one I put, oh, it's really pouring. It must be because I shook it up. It's a leaky here. I don't want this to get all over the place and ruin my placemat here. So let me just clean that up. All right. There we go. Now it's better. That's sticky, 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 nasty stuff. Anyway, so Indiana Wyatt, there you go. Anyway, Jay-Z is barred. Barack Obama holds a big party for Joseph Robinette Biden, and protesters line the streets outside complaining about Biden's Gaza policy. The left is eating themselves alive. But they will come back to the fold come November. Don't get too excited. Zuma will be a perfect mayor for Detroit. Yeah, I think you might be right about that. It might be a perfect mayor for Detroit. Will Zuma be banned? No, it won't. Will it get more votes? It will probably get more people from the ANC to go vote for MK, yes. But MK is not going to lose votes because Zuma can't be in office. Unless these people are that stupid that they thought he was actually going to be in office. Of course, they'll argue that the fight is not over. There's still more ground to be made in this, and they'll make another stand, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. The drama between the, between the African National Congress and Mkhonto we Sizwe will continue up to, through, and after May 29th. And that's just the bottom line. Due to Zile. Being in with the Shlupas. Okay. I think you mean the Guptas. Anyway. All right, let's get to the news here, folks. So this is making global headlines. Al Jazeera runs a story saying that Jay-Z is not going to be on the ballot. Well, and again, we've told you that. Ronaldo and I talked about it yesterday and Wednesdays with the Colonel. Ex-president barred from May election. The election is expected the most competitive since 94 when the nation became a democracy. Well, it became a multiracial democracy. It wasn't a democracy before that, but for a limited voting base. South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma has been barred from standing in elections in May. South Africa is set to hold general elections May 29th. Zuma has been campaigning the recently formed Mkhonto we Sizwe party in an attempt to relaunch his career after he was previously jailed for contempt of court in 2021. In the case of former President Zuma, yes, we did receive an objection which has been upheld. Electoral Commission President Motsuto Moipia told reporters yesterday, without giving details, the party that has nominated him has been informed, as have those objecting to the move. Wow. The governing ANC is on the brink of dropping below 50% for the first time since 1994. It'll force them to form a coalition to stay in power. Recent polls put the ANC on just more than 40% of the vote, and the main opposition, DA, with 27%, MK with 13%. Yeah. Anyway, don't worry. It's all in the bag. MK, COPE, EFF, ANC Alliance. Watch it. World Court has chastised Israel after South Africa's intervention once again, intruding into the sovereign affairs of the State of Israel. Judges at the International Court of Justice yesterday unanimously ordered Israel to take all necessary and effective action to ensure basic food supplies arrive without delay to the Palestinian population in Gaza. ICJ said the Palestinians in Gaza face worsening conditions of life and famine. Starvation are spreading. The court observes the Palestinians in Gaza are no longer facing only a risk of famine, but the famine is setting in. Wow. There you go. Of course, this is a consequence of South Africa going to the court once again. New measures requested by South Africa as part of its ongoing case that accuses Israel of state-led genocide. Quite frankly, one can make an argument on that silly argument that the ANC has made before the International Court of Justice, make the same argument against South Africa for 85 citizens per day dying. We're talking over 650,000 South Africans murdered. What is that? Is that genocide? Well, you decide. So, Israel being attacked once again by the International Court of Justice. But let me ask you this question. What exactly do you think the International Court of Justice is going to do, ladies and gentlemen? They have no teeth whatsoever, no enforcement activity, no capability to enforce its rulings. Parties accept the rulings and agree to abide by the results voluntarily. There is no enforcement mechanism for the International Court of Justice. So the ANC can go there all day long. All they do is show what anti-Semites they are and how they violate Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, the right to self-defense, to defend oneself when attacked. Make no mistake, let's be very clear about this. On October 7th, 2023, the government of Gaza violated the territorial sovereignty of Israel, crossed the border in an illegal invasion using terrorists to gang rape, dismember, butcher, murder, and slaughter 1,200 people on Israeli soil, most of whom were Jews, some were Christians, some were Buddhist, from around the world. South Africa has chosen the side of evil the ANC that is. They've chosen to side with evil. Hamas is a designated terrorist group. Yet they are the ruling government in Gaza. And that ruling government violated the territorial sovereignty. Article 51 of the United Nations Charter guarantees the right to self-protection when a country is attacked. Israel was attacked, showed great restraint in not launching a counterstrike for 3 weeks, preparing to do the best they could to reduce civilian casualties. In the meantime, Hamas has illegally, in violation of the law of land warfare, of the Geneva Conventions, international norms, used schools, clinics, mosques, and residential areas to conduct military operations targeting Israel, firing rockets into Israel, a story that's never talked about. Hamas continues to fire rockets into Israel, yet no one says anything about it in the fake stream, lamestream media, or the disinformation coming from the Biden regime, from the Sunak regime, from the Macron regime, and from Jens Stoltenberg. Jens Stoltenberg having to do with this. That's Ukraine. Just thought I'd throw Jens in there because we put him under the bus too. Yeah, not a peep. Not a peep. Not a peep from ANC. No. But once they're paymasters in Tehran, well, we're assuming. We don't know. We can't prove that. That's supposition, folks. Yep. Yes. There you have it. Well, Israel says the United Nations is deceiving the world over aid delays. Problem is with distribution, not with the aid actually getting inside, say Israeli officials. On a visit to Egypt last week, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres made a stop at the border crossing between the most populous Arab state and the war-stricken Gaza Strip. At the Rafah crossing, Guterres described seeing a long line of block relief vehicles waiting to be let into Gaza. Immediately after that, Israel accused the UN's top official of deceiving and noted instead that it was the UN that was holding up the deliveries of life-saving aid to people who were said to be on the verge of famine. Since October 7th, UN actors and agencies have told lie after lie about Hamas atrocities and Israel's efforts to exercise its lawful right of self-defense, said Anne Bayevsky, director of the Turo Institute on Human Rights and the Holocaust and Present Human Rights Voices. Over the past few weeks, the images of malnourished Gaza children appear on news and social media. UN aid agencies, Israeli authorities have been locked in a bitter battle over narratives over who is to blame for preventing deliveries of food, water, and medicine. Israeli officials say there are no limits in the amount of aid that can enter Gaza. The UN and its aid agencies maintain the opposite. They claim there are blockages caused by lengthy screening procedures and limiting operating hours, particularly at the Rafah crossing, which is manned by Egypt. Well, there's a reason why there's lengthy screening procedures. It's so that you can't smuggle more rockets and weapons into the terrorists in Hamas. It's pretty simple, folks. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. That's why there are long delays. If Iran wasn't smuggling arms into Gaza, then there would be no need for these long delays. So what you do is you keep them coming constantly 24/7, and then the delays don't become an issue because you continue to push things through. United Nations Chief Guterres says it's time to truly flood Gaza with aid and calls starvation there an outrage. Well, I call Antonio Guterres an outrageous bureaucrat who lies. Yep. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres stood near a long line of waiting trucks last week and declared it was time to finally flood Gaza with life-saving aid. Well, aid has been flooding into Gaza from all over the world, but the UN chooses to lie about it. Of course, we know the UN, WHR, that organization, they had people who were actually Hamas terrorists as part of their employees. They employed terrorists. And of course, the left tried to claim that was a disinformation campaign, but in fact, it was factual. They had people participating in the atrocities on October 7th who were Hamas terrorists who were on the payroll and working for the United Nations. Well, Modi says India is keen to make trade deals with Britain and Oman, assuming he gets a third term. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to prioritize completion of free trade deals with Britain and Oman in the first 100 days of the next government if he wins the upcoming elections, as polls predict. He's asked Indian ministries to set annual goals for the next 5 years that will fit into a 100-day action plan as he chalks out a strategy to fuel further growth in Asia's third largest but struggling economy. Yes, and a major polluter at that. Taiwan's Navy chief is headed to the USA. Say it ain't so. Taiwan's Navy Chief Tang Hua is set to visit the United States next week amidst rising tensions in the South China Sea. Tang will participate in a military ceremony and discuss enhancing naval cooperation. Interesting that Taiwan's Navy chief is coming here. I'm sure that the Chinese will take exception.
Louis Rees-Zammit, the young star of Welsh rugby who's abandoned rugby to try his hand at the National Football League, probably because people in the NFL make a lot of money. Also, I'm sure that Louis Rees-Zammit is trying to bring some degree of diversity, equity, and inclusion to the NFL, which is an overwhelmingly black-dominated sport, with over 65% of the players being black, yet only 12% of the population is black. So we have to import white players from Wales to get some diversity in the NFL. That was sarcasm for those who don't cap on. Hey, the crypto noob is back. For those who don't catch up. Yeah. Anyway, so back to that story. Louis Rees-Zammit, Welsh rugby star, agrees to NFL deal with Kansas City Chiefs, according to reports. Bleacher Report claims that. Louis Rees-Zammit, one of rugby's biggest talents, is set for a chance to play in the NFL next season after the Welsh international reportedly agreed to contract terms with the Kansas City Chiefs, according to Bleacher Report and ESPN. CNN has reached out to the Chiefs, Rees-Zammit's agent, and the NFL for comment. The 23-year-old winger is a star for Wales and his former club of Gloucester, but elected to leave the security of rugby for the NFL International Player Pathway program and eventually an NFL roster. Well, his best hope is the changes, the ridiculous nonsense the NFL did by trying to eliminate kick returns to cut down on concussions, when what they should have done is punish players who hit illegally. That would have solved the problem. But what they did is let the kickoff much closer so that almost every kick is in the end zone and nobody returns it. Now they decide to go back to the other style where 70% of the kicks get returned and move the kicks position back. The reason that matters is Louis Rees-Zammit will likely be a punt returner and a kickoff returner using his speed and his moves. And that gives him a far better chance to make the team. So congratulations to him, Louis Rees-Zammit. Easter travel around the world. Yesterday, Ronaldo and I talked about it. Please be careful. Busy weekend. Many people traveling. Hundreds of millions of people around the world. Christians celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Today is Good Friday. And I wish you all the very best on Good Friday. Then we have Easter Sunday and Easter Monday coming up. So, people traveling all over the world in the Christian world, on the roads, clogging the roads, lots of likely traffic accidents, and unfortunately there will be fatalities. Please don't become one of them. In the United Kingdom, Easter travel and weather. Dover ferry is delayed as the getaway begins today. Ferries at Dover have been delayed due to rough weather as the Easter weekend gets underway. Reports of long queues at Dover on Friday as vehicles faced a 2-hour wait to be processed. Oh, that sucks. Stormy weather that contributed to delays yesterday evening expected to ease today, and the dozens of flood warnings and alerts remain in place for England. A record number of people are planning to fly this weekend, and 2.6 million car journeys are expected on Friday. Some 11 million people in the United Kingdom have planned a trip this Easter, according to the Tourist Board. Drivers have been warned journeys could take twice as long on some routes. Yeah, in the UK, no doubt about that. No doubt. Hey, there's a P&O ferry right there. I recognize the flag on the back of it. Yep, a weather system dubbed Storm Nelson by Spanish forecasters brought wet and windy conditions to Northern Ireland and the south of England. But it wasn't the only thing, folks. There was snow in parts of southern England and Wales yesterday. Snow. It's almost April, they had snow. How's that global warming going for you there, folks? Manchester Airport said it was preparing for 320,000 passengers, 8% more than what occurred last year. Planned engineering works could cause disruption for some rail passengers, including at London Euston, one of the UK's busiest railway stations, which will be largely closed between Good Friday and Easter Monday. Well, that sucks. Trains between London and East Anglia and services to and from the capital via the West Coast Main Line are expected to be impacted by works, according to Network Rail. Great Western Railway services between Westbury and Swindon have been cancelled after flooding closed the line. UK is expected to see a mix of sunshine and showers with the potential for some heavy downpours and hail, though temperatures will remain close to average. Met Office meteorologist Dan Harris said most could expect a fairly typical mix of spring-like weather. However, more persistent rain could return to England and Wales on Monday. A fairly typical mix of spring-like weather. Talk about hedging your bets there. Well, in the United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak is under fire for the benighting of an Egyptian, Sir Mansour, and he's under fire for that. Mohammed Mansour, Rishi Sunak faces criticism after Tory donor is given knighthood. Businessman Mohammed Mansour, a senior treasurer for the party, has been honored for his business, charity, and political service. Last year, he gave £5 million to the party. It's the biggest donation since 2001. Criticized the Prime Minister for rewarding a benefactor, Labour said donors should not get an automatic pass through the honor system. Sir Mohammed was given a knighthood alongside Farming Minister Mark Spencer and Shipley's Conservative MP Philip Davies, as well as damehoods for former ministers Tracy Crouch and Harriet Baldwin. Mr. Sunak recommended the honors to the king, but questions have also been raised about the unconventional timing of the announcement as Parliament begins its Easter recess. Wow, there you go. Sir Mohammed was once a politician in Egypt, where he served as transport minister from 2006 to 2009 under Hosni Mubarak, the late Egyptian president, who stood down during the 2011 Arab Spring. So, now he's Sir Mansour, like Sir Elton John. The United States has set a new record, 51 million foreigners in this country, foreign-born people in this country. That is absolutely bat crap crazy. That is nearly the population of the United Kingdom. Jacked higher by jackass Joe Biden's open borders agenda, there are now more legal and illegal immigrants in America than any other time in history, numerically and as a percentage of our population. At 51.1 million, the number isn't just the highest ever, but it's also the share at 15.5%, according to the Census Bureau. Analysis of the Census Bureau's current population survey shows that the total foreign-born or immigrant population, legal and illegal, hit a new record high of 51.4 million in February of this year, an increase of 6.4 million since Jackass Joe took office. At 15.5%, the foreign-born share is also a new record in American history. Absolutely crazy. The enormous scale of immigration over the past 3 years has implications for nearly every aspect of American society, including public coffers, the labor market, schools, hospitals, and the balance of political power, to say nothing of whether we can assimilate this many people, wrote Stephen Camarota and Karen Ziegler. Wow. Unbelievable. This is just crazy. Just crazy. Since Biden took office in January 2021, the foreign-born population has grown by 6.4 million, larger than the individual populations of 33 of our 50 states. This is unacceptable. It's out of control. Well, Joe holds a big fundraiser courtesy of Barry Hussein Obama. That's right, Barack Hussein Obama. And Bill Clinton, another disgraced former president. U.S. President Joe Biden hosted a record-breaking election fundraiser in New York, sitting alongside his predecessors Barry Obama and Slick Willie. His team said the star-studded evening at Radio City Music Hall would raise over $26 million, a record for a single political event. Oh yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Republicans are the party of big business. Their hands are in big business. Bullshit. That's nonsense. It's the demon rats, the Democrats, and the leftists. There's a distinction. There are Democrats, patriotic Americans. There are demon rats, grifters, and there are leftists. Vile people. Protesters disrupted the Biden big party. Yeah, look at this. Outside Radio City Music Hall. Protesters calling for a ceasefire in Gaza attend a demonstration outside Radio City Music Hall in Manhattan on the day of fundraising event for U.S. President Joe Biden with Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. It was punctuated by several protests inside the massive auditorium, with attendees rising at several different moments to shout over the discussion, referencing Biden's backing of Israel in the Hamas war. Shame on you, Joe Biden, one yelled. Now, this is actually comical. It's comical because, of course, Trump is being called an anti-Semite. He's actually the guy that really gave Israel support. But Joe Biden's taking the flak. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Transformative. United States to add Middle Eastern and North Africa category, a MENA category, to the census in 2030. Once again, an effort to bifurcate Americans based on balkanization. That's what's trying to happen here. The left is trying to balkanize America, claiming that people are marginalized. Now, here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. Let me discuss this very quickly with you because it's a very important point to make. So, I'm going to give you this story here. This is in Al Jazeera. It's also being reported elsewhere. Now, this is the corrupt Biden regime changing things to divide America and balkanize us into yet even more tiny tribes. Transformative U.S. Census to add Middle Eastern North African category. Advocates have long said the census count has left communities invisible, but they say change is only a first step. Really? Advocates for Arab Americans routinely use one word to describe how diverse communities from the Middle East and North Africa have for decades been categorized in the United States Census: invisible. But that's set to change when the next federal census conducted in 2030, with the White House Office of Management and Budget announcing Thursday, what rules do they have with that? New federal standards for collecting race and ethnicity data. For the first time, Americans who trace their ancestral roots to the Middle East and North Africa will have their own category on the census. It's transformative, says Maya Berry, executive director of the Arab American Institute, who has for years advocated for the update. For more than 4 decades, dating back to the foundation of our organization, we have highlighted that there is no accurate count for our community because a checkbox did not exist on federal data collection forms, particularly the census. Really? Here's the problem with that. Your ancestors are the problem. You see, your ancestors filed a lawsuit. In Dow versus the United States, 1915, the United States Court of Appeals ruled that Syrians were included in the term white persons. This ruling only applied to Arabs from the Levant area until 1944, when the federal government deemed that all Arabs, including those from North Africa, were white. I've said this many times. Arabs are considered white. Hispanics are considered white unless they're specifically Afro-Caribbean or black. So now, in order to achieve the leftist goal to claim that America is not a majority white nation, we're now going to divide the white population even further. Strip away the Hispanics who are white, strip away the Arabs who are white, and then magically there are no white people left in America. What a bunch of nonsense. 1915. Hey, Sean P. Diddy Combs. Apparently these charges are about him. Yep, federal agents raided Combs' properties following 5 civil lawsuits accusing him of sexual assault, trafficking, and other illegal activity. He's denied all the allegations. Sean P. Diddy Combs has been hit with a wave of civil lawsuits in recent months and is now the subject of federal investigation. Federal agents this week executed searches of his properties where guns were found and his phones were seized at an airport as part of a warrant issued by the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. That's the same one that came after Donald Trump. The one that Rudy Giuliani used to run. There you go. Sam Bankman-Fried, sentenced to 25 years in prison for his cryptocurrency scam. He's convicted of stealing $8 billion from customers of his FTX cryptocurrency exchange, faced a maximum sentence of 110 years. So, Sam Bankman-Fried got 25 years in prison. Enrique, the leader of the Proud Boys, who was not present at January 6th, got 18 years for interfering with an official proceeding that he didn't interfere with. This guy defrauded millions of people and stole $8 billion, and he gets 25 years. And Enrique gets 18 years. His sentence was shorter than the 40 to 50 years that federal prosecutors had sought after a jury found him guilty of fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. But they carried a maximum penalty of 110 years. The 32-year-old did not visibly react as they hand down a sentence. He knew it was wrong. He knew it was criminal, says Judge Kaplan. Before the sentence was delivered, Mr. Bankman-Fried, clean-shaven and wearing a loose-fitting brown jail uniform, apologized to FTX's customers, investors, and employees. I really let a lot of people down, and they were very let down. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about what happened at every stage. He's ordered to forfeit $11 billion in assets. Wow. Wow. So somebody's going to get money back unless the government takes that money. $11 billion, a lot of money. Well, ladies and gentlemen, another effort to bifurcate and divide America and continually focus on things that are really not particularly important. The Associated Press and several news outlets run a story today pointing out that there are 2 hijab-wearing members of women's basketball teams playing in the NCAA tournament. Who cares? What do I care? Hijab-wearing players in women's I keep saying, all right, let's go back. Let's rewind the tape there. The National Collegiate Athletic Association, not the NAACP. That's something completely different. The National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA basketball women's teams have 2 women who are wearing hijabs. Yeah, and North Carolina State's Jana Isa and UC Irvine's Daiba Konate are leaving a big impact off the court, bringing visibility and inspiration to Muslim women by wearing hijabs while they play. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but you won't find women wearing hijabs playing basketball for Afghanistan or Iran, will you? Only in America. So what's your point? The Key Bridge. The latest news, structural failure to blame as massive cleanup begins. The Biden regime is now trying to blame the bridge for its collapse. The bridge was structurally sound. A massive cargo ship, not cargo ships that were in use when the bridge was built in 1977, is the reason the bridge collapsed. Nothing could have withstood that. Hit the Empire State Building, it would have collapsed too if we're at the edge of the water. This is a ridiculous passing the buck, blaming the engineers for a bridge that I've driven over hundreds of times in both directions. Yeah, okay. So, structural failures are to blame for the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, experts have said, as the massive cleanup gets underway. While it's too early to say exactly what happened during the collision, the collapse that resulted, experts have revealed that the Francis Scott Key Bridge, designed in the 1970s, might not have been designed with the vast size and power of the ships that sail under today in mind. It's conceivable that the piers weren't designed to withstand the magnitude of today's ship impacts, as vessels like Dolly weren't navigating the port during that era. Really. This from Professor Toby Mottram of the University of Warwick in the UK. I'm sorry. So the headline says structural failure is to blame. And then he says it might be to blame. And they might not have known. What a bunch of nonsense. This is clickbait headlines. The reality is this, folks. The Chesapeake Bay Bridge was a sound structure. Not Chesapeake Bay, excuse me. The Francis Scott Key Bridge. Chesapeake Bay is also sound. The Francis Scott Key Bridge is a sound structure that was built in 1977 and served millions of travelers and probably tens of thousands of ships going under it. Perhaps the Port of Baltimore should not have allowed cargo ships of that size to do operations beyond the bridge and the Sparrows Point Narrows. Perhaps that's what should have been done. Blaming it on structural failure, that's ridiculous. You take one of those ships and run it in anything and it will fail. Ridiculous nonsense. Clickbait. Hey, Letitia James under pressure to file charges against Jon Stewart. Of course, you know John Leibovitz, the former star of the boring Daily Show. Apparently he's back now. Isn't he back again? John Leibovitz, isn't that his last name? Leibovitz? I think that's it. Jon Stewart, under pressure here. People on social media have called for New York Attorney General Letitia James to prosecute late-night show host Jon Stewart, as she did with former President Trump, after it was reported that Stewart sold his city apartment for $15.6 million more than it was worth. On Wednesday, the New York Post reported that Stewart sold his Tribeca penthouse in 2014 for $17.5 million. At the time, the 6,280 square foot property had a market value of $1.882 million, according to the City of New York's assessment roll, making the sale price roughly 830% higher than the value. The comedian did nothing illegal by selling his penthouse for more than market value, but social media users were quick to mention that James go after Stewart like she did after Trump for inflating his assets. James filed a lawsuit against Trump, accusing him and his two adult sons of inflating the value and getting more favorable terms. Well, did Jon Stewart inflate the value? There you go. Representative Mike Collins, a Georgia Republican, posted on Twitter, look forward to Letitia James sending the NYPD to haul Jon Stewart to jail and seize his property. Conservative Breitbart News shared an article about Stewart's penthouse sale and wrote, paging Letitia James. No one is above the law, are they? Carmine Sabia, editor-in-large at Conservative Brief, said, is Letitia James going to prosecute Jon Stewart? Conservative radio host Andrew Wilkow shared Wednesday's article post and wrote, paging Letitia James. Yeah. Well, according to Judge Moron, who came up with this conviction against him, he says no one is above the law, not even Donald Trump. Well, apparently Jon Stewart's above the law. Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s running mate has a beef with in vitro fertilization. Yeah, she doesn't believe in science. Nicole Shanahan says that IVF is one of the biggest lies being told about women's health. No, it's not. You are just a wackadoodle. She's denounced IVF, calling it one of the biggest lies that's being told about women's health today. Yet 2% of children born in America are a consequence of in vitro fertilization. Clearly, she needs to learn more about science. Well, let's talk about those wind turbines and those massive blades that are death machines for birds. Not to mention the blight they put on our natural landscape. They're hard to move around, too. Check this out, folks. A monster plane lands anywhere, delivering giant wind turbines without roads. Wow, the Radia Windrunner. Now, you can't tell from there how big it is. That's a misleading photograph, but wait till you see what's coming up here. This is the new aircraft called the Windrunner.
Imagine something so big it was specifically made to haul the massive turbines that are the backbone of onshore wind energy. The Windrunner can carry cargo that just can't fit on the road and can't go places that are a bit on the rough side. So, still can't see the sides. All right, here we go. There you go. Look at those blades going in the back of that aircraft. It can land and take off from airstrips as short as 6,000 feet. Wow. There you go. There's a better picture. You can see how long those blades are that pile into that aircraft. It's a breakthrough in transporting extremely large cargo like wind turbine components. It doesn't spell the end for trucking jobs, but it does have a big impact. Look at that behemoth, man. It looks like a beluga whale. Absolutely massive. Several of them lined up there. 5. Crazy stuff. That's the Windrunner. Whew, that thing is huge. Looks ridiculous. Yep, I agree. Looks ridiculous. I got 56 people currently here, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, let's go. Make sure we're live. All right. Still getting one hair. It keeps getting in there. I got to get right there. That's bothering me. Anyway, I'll do that after the broadcast. Just 39 likes. What's that all about? Why aren't I getting likes today? What's up? All right. South Africa's clearly having problems, and maybe that's why we don't have a larger audience, because we have a big audience here. Baltimore is a city run by America's best and brightest. Is that a joke, Nexus? Yeah. Only 5 people in America watch that anyway. Watch what? Jon Stewart? Yeah. James Bowie says actual Passover is in April, which is when Yeshua, Jesus, was crucified. Easter is a Roman Catholic adopted pagan holiday. Yeah. No argument there. Still, there are Roman Catholics in my audience. Census understates left-handed transsexual people of color. Bahama. It's a disgrace. Bahamian origin. That's right. I'm a left-handed Bahamian of origin. Yeah, that's funny. Watch and see what happens. Soon most countries will have lost national identities, and identities more in line with Islam. People will start waking up. Yep. No, people lose their identities because it's balkanization and breaking people apart. So people fought to be called white. Black Americans for centuries have moved in and out of white communities based on their worldview and their skin pigmentation, their appearance, and their mixing with white folks. And Arabs demanded that they be treated as whites. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, it was a 1915 court case, Dow versus the United States. The United States Court of Appeals ruled that Syrians were included in the term white persons. They took them to court to ensure that they were treated as white persons. Now, this ruling at the time only applied to Arabs that came from the Levant up until 1944, when the federal government deemed that all Arabs, including those of North African origin, were white. So here we have an effort by know-nothing, idiotic activists who seem to think that they're being somehow marginalized. Really? I can spot Arab Americans. I mean, Ralph Nader, who's run for president multiple times. Ralph Nader is an Arab American, Lebanese. Jamie Farr, Lebanese American Arab. Sam Haddad, who I went to university with, Lebanese American. Yeah. Pretty easy to identify these folks, Kelly Ayotte, isn't she an Arab American too? How is your identity lost? Well, is my identity as a Viking not lost because I'm just considered white by the census? Maybe the census should say that I am a Viking. I want a Viking category on the census if we're going to play this game. Yep, exactly. No one knows when Jesus will return. One God, what we're giving us to look at the other labor signs. Okay. All right, what else we got here? Hey, John Jarvis is here. Good to see you, John. Okay. Start time caught me again. Yeah, sorry, Ken. I don't have an option. I've got a lot of stuff to do this morning. I had many things to do related to my campaign, plus setting up the broadcast for Rugby Ascendant this afternoon with the Bulls and Leinster. Tomorrow, the Stormers and Ulster. In addition to that, I had to coordinate for some delivery of some signs. I had to take care of a few other things, and then I had to get the news together for this broadcast, and I had to go do a meeting on strategy about my campaign, then come back here. Got here just 7 minutes before the broadcast. And then after that, I'm leaving in about an hour to go put signs out. And then I'm going to come back for the broadcast. Then I leave that, and I've got a presentation. It's National Vietnam Veterans Day today. So, yeah, blue-eyed Christian Lebanese who obviously came. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, National Vietnam Veterans Day today commemorates the selfless service of those who served in uniform regardless of where they served. This includes 9 million Americans serving during the period of 1955 to 1975. 6.4 million of them still living today. 2.7 million service members who served in Vietnam. 58,000 who died, whose names are memorialized on Black Granite Wall in our nation's capital. 153,000 wounded. 1,253 missing in action to this day, have yet to be returned to America. And 2,500 prisoners of war. Made official through the Vietnam War Veterans Recognition Act of 2017 and signed into law by then President Donald Trump, on March 29th, we honor the great service and sacrifice of our Vietnam War veterans through ceremonies and celebrations across the nation. The date is significant as on that date, more than 50 years ago, the last combat troops were withdrawn from Vietnam and the last prisoners of war held in North Vietnam arrived home on U.S. soil. From February of 1961 until May of 1975, more than 3.4 million Americans served in support of U.S. military operations in Vietnam and Southeast Asia. National Vietnam Veterans Day. Paula Abdul, there's another one. Yeah, I mean, it's like we don't know who they are. Give me a break. I have not seen the belugas in Antarctica. What's going on there? Yep. The stats of people leaving cities. Well, I can tell you how it works, Patrick, and here's how exactly how it works. Baltimore once was a city of nearly 1 million residents. The city of Baltimore itself, and the city actually takes up a big chunk of the county, but 1 million residents. By the 1990s, the population of Baltimore declined to barely over 500,000. Nearly half the population left the city. Now, in the 1950s, the 1960s, and the 1970s, most of the people that left Baltimore left the city to move to the suburbs, because instead of living in a crappy row house, you could move to a place with a yard, with a bigger school, with a driveway, with a garage, peace and security, and a little bit of space. Now, the people who moved out there were people who served in the war afterwards, 1950s, in the 1960s, 1970s, and they were overwhelmingly white. Now, for years, radical racists have been arguing the reason that the whites moved to the suburbs is because they couldn't live with black people because they're racist. Well, undoubtedly, there's a few racists who did that, but the vast majority of people were not racist. They were simply people who had earned higher incomes and could afford to buy homes in these newer developments with a better quality of life, near shopping malls, near major highways, near state parks, recreational facilities, and space. And as the American dream improved, the people best positioned at the time in the 50s, 60s, and 70s were mostly white Americans who saw increases in their income. Not because of racism, because of growing economy. Black Americans were so far behind that their level of income wasn't commensurate in rising until the 1990s. In the 1990s, we began to see large numbers of black Baltimoreans leave Baltimore. And where did they move? To the same neighborhoods where the white folks went, in Catonsville, in Bel Air, or Blair, as we say in Maryland, Hunt Valley. This is where black folks moved to. Not because they're racist, and the white people in those neighborhoods didn't leave. But you see, the simpleton race hustlers always blame it on racism. It wasn't racism, it was socioeconomic mobility. And when black Americans, in no small measure because of guaranteed government jobs in places like the Social Security Administration and for the government at the National Security Agency and military bases and in government agencies in Washington, D.C. and the Beltway around that, hundreds of thousands of jobs created and black Americans. Try going to get services in Washington, D.C. and see if you ever see a white person. Try going for government services in government buildings throughout the District of Columbia for federal jobs and see how many white people you see. You won't see a lot. Now, that's not a complaint. It's a statement of fact that a lot of black Americans moved into government jobs, probably because they're more secure and protected than in the corporate sector, and their incomes rose commensurate with new employment and higher wages paid to government employees, which get paid quite a bit, actually. So black folks fled. D.C. was once 78% black, the District of Columbia. Just 30 years ago, the District of Columbia roughly was 78% black. Take a look at the numbers today. It's nowhere near that. It's dropped down in the 50s. It's still a majority black city, but barely. Now, why is D.C. a majority black city? Because during the Civil War, escaped slaves flooded from Virginia and other states into the District of Columbia. Why? Because
they saw the Union Army would protect them. And that's how the population became flipped from majority white to majority black, and it remained that way for much of the history of the District of Columbia. Yep, there you have it. A little bit of history about migration. So does that answer your question there, Patrick? Yep. Detroit's the same thing. Yeah, next is the exact same thing. As people got better paying union jobs in the automobile industry before it abandoned Detroit and moved to Ontario and Mexico, as they got better paying union jobs and made 30, 40 bucks an hour, they moved out of the small homes in very tight neighborhoods and moved into the suburbs. And Detroit was hollowed out, as was, a whole bunch of cities in Michigan. Yep. What about Newark? Newark is just a disaster. It's always been a disaster. I don't know the history of Newark. I know the history of Detroit. I know the history of these other places. So, and here's the thing. Until recent decades, immigrant groups have come. They've been followed by other immigrants who cluster around them, but then they filter around and become part of the population, and those densities get reduced. I mean, for a long time, New York was an Irish town. Before that, it was a German town. And Boston was an Irish town. It still has a reputation, but it's not even remotely an Irish town. It's just a reputation. It's full of Portuguese and Greeks and all kinds of other folks. Hang on a second here. That might be the answer I'm looking for. No, it's just nonsense. So, yeah, Chicago is known as an Irish town, but it's actually a Polish town. It's the second largest Polish city in the world after Warsaw. The Polish ethnic population of Chicago is massive. Yep. Now they are illegal immigrant towns. Yes, they are. Well, and you have places that now in more recent history have not changed. People get overwhelmed. You swamp the original occupants or people who built the community, and then you force them out. That's what's happened in Dearborn, which has become an overwhelmingly Arab town. There were no Arabs in Dearborn 150 years ago, not a single one. Now it's an Arab town. And the mores, norms, and values are reflecting people's old country, failed country origins. Isn't that ironic? People come from failed countries. They come from places with no opportunity, places with oppression, places with disastrous governance, places where they've been treated poorly. And they come to America and they replicate the same garbage here. No, thank you. Female genital mutilation, an abhorrent practice in Chad, Nigeria, Senegal, Somalia, Ethiopia. Not much in Ethiopia, a little bit. In Somalia, widespread. Sudan, Yemen. And what do? They bring that broken cultural practice here and endanger the lives of American girls and women. Those become American citizens. I've talked about this before. There's this sick thing called the cutting season. What the cutting season is America's schools are based on 9 months in school, 3 months off for the summer to help on the farm. That system we haven't changed. It's been there for centuries. And every summer, when prepubescent girls are on the verge of puberty, or just as they reach it, these sick, twisted bastards send their daughters, their nieces, their granddaughters, back to the old country to visit auntie. Once there, if they go back to places like Somalia, which does happen, oftentimes their clitoris is sliced off with a broken Coke bottle or a razor blade. And then their vagina is stitched together in infubation in order to cause it to grow together to reduce the size of their opening. It can lead to all kinds of urinary tract infections, discomfort during intercourse, and of course, no pleasure from sexual intercourse. And this is what they do. Every year, young girls born in America, raised by these sick ghouls, are sent back to visit relatives in these countries. Now, this procedure has been attempted here in America. It's illegal in some states. It's shocking to me that it's not a crime in every state. To me, it is assault, child endangerment, sexual abuse. How is it not a crime? But it is barely prosecuted in this country. It has been prosecuted a few times. It is sick, twisted. DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yep, sick stuff, really sick stuff. And these are broken cultural values that we don't want here. Andrea with the super chat says, thanks, Chris. Have to hit the road. Have a blessed Easter. Same to you, Andrea. Be safe out there.
Be very careful on those roads. I will do the same. Yep, got to be careful out there, folks. Anyway, thank you all so much. I really appreciate that super chat. That's awesome. It's already shown up here in my studio, but it hasn't shown up on the screen. The studio is controlled by YouTube. The screen is controlled by my software, so it must be a little bit behind. Monique says, road's busy. It's Carmageddon. That's Carmageddon. That's a good one. That's a good one. I appreciate that. Oh, didn't earn it. Didn't earn it. Yeah, DEI didn't earn it. Yeah, that's a good one. Yep. Anyway, so what do we got here? So I was asked a question about natural rights the other day. Let me read to you my response to someone. You guys tell me what you think about natural rights, okay? Natural rights, derived from nature itself, are universal, fundamental, and inalienable. No government grants natural rights. Therefore, such rights are unalienable and cannot be abrogated or legislated by a government or a culture. Though one can forfeit their enjoyment of natural rights through one's actions, such as violating another person's rights, natural rights are not dependent on the laws or customs of any culture or government. Natural rights have a long history in Western civilization dating back hundreds of years. The German philosopher Immanuel Kant claimed that we derive natural rights through reason alone. English philosopher John Locke went so far as to emphasize life, liberty, and property as natural rights. Our Declaration of Independence is based upon the self-evident truth that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. The Declaration goes on to list life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as natural rights. The Bill of Rights includes unalienable or arguably natural rights, including the freedom of assembly, speech, religion. But to me, the Bill of Rights represents a baseline minimum of rights, including natural rights, which in the Constitution, the state, and the people recognize the federal government cannot legislate away. Those are my thoughts on that. And thank you. The super chat just came up. I didn't hear it. Thank you for that, Andrea. Appreciate that. That's awesome. Yep. Yeah, Navik. It's Navik. That's the weekend, folks. Yep. All right. It is a sick practice, Val Cooper, and I've been calling it out for years. It's really barbaric. And I don't want to hear about cultural diversity. That's nonsense. It is not your right to destroy the health and the pleasure of another human being for your cultural norms. If a woman wants to do that to herself upon reaching the age of maturity, a majority, I should say, that's her prerogative. But to do that to underage girls, it is a crime. It must be stopped. Immanuel Kant. Kant. K-A-N-T. It was from Königsberg, which today is Kaliningrad. Königsberg, stolen from Germans who occupied it for well over a millennium. And there you have it, folks. Look at that super chat come up. That is awesome. Let me take a look. Whoops, what happened there? I went the wrong way. Let me go back. Something just very weird happened there. Right. Okay. So we getting a new subscribers today, but the last couple videos got us a few new subscribers. We're inching up to 15,000. Really would like to get there, folks. Really would like to get to 15,000. It would be very nice. How are we doing here? That video I did on the black journalist who was traumatized by Iranian has gotten 11,600 views and 46 new subscribers. So thank you to everybody who subscribed. Actually, a little bit of revenue too coming in from people watching the ads. So thanks. Yep. And Erica, you're definitely having issues with your stream. So sorry about that. Anyway, so Ronell, hey, how you doing? I was worried about you, Ronell. Sent you a message. Glad to see you there. All right, cool beans. So, yeah, we've got United Rugby Championship action coming up this week, folks. Let's see what the schedule is here real quick. I'll run off. I'll only be covering 2 games, one of them today, and then the other tomorrow, which would be the Stormers. Today, it's Leinster versus the Bulls. That's at 3:30 my time. That's going to be 9:30 in South Africa. The Bulls on the road, RDS Arena in Dublin. They need to win this game. If they win this game, wow, that would be incredible. So then we've got the Dragons are hosting Zebra Parma at the same time. That's a also ran game, not particularly exciting. Tomorrow it's Benetton hosting Connacht, and then Benetton is in trouble now. They've went from 2nd place to 9th place in the standings, and they're out of playoff contention. They need to start winning again. Then the Sharks are hosting Edinburgh. And the suddenly once again alive Sharks. The Osprey are hosting the Lions, and I'm picking the Lions to win that one in Swansea. Let's see how it goes. And then tomorrow at 1 o'clock my time, 7 o'clock South African time, it's the Stormers hosting Ulster at DHL Greenpoint Stadium in the mother city of Cape Town. Beyond that, the Scarlets are hosting Glasgow, and then Munster has Cardiff. So there you go, folks. That's what's coming up on that. And then on the table here, at the moment, Leinster's in first place with 10 wins, 2 losses, 49 points and long. If the Bulls can win this game, they'll go 4 points to 49. They'd have to have at least an 8-point victory over Leinster in order to prevent Leinster from getting another point. Or if the Storm or the Bulls get 4 tries, that would give them 5 points, take them to 50, and they would be 10 wins, 3 losses, and Leinster would be 10 wins, 3 losses. Right now, the Bulls have 6 points more to their advantage. Wow, so that would be incredible to see the Bulls climb into first place. I'm all excited about it. Leinster, then comes the Bulls at 45 points on the log. Glasgow at 44. Munster at 39. Stormers at 35. Back in contention. They jump out of 9th place all the way up to 5th place with their victory last week against Edinburgh. Now if they beat Ulster, who's in 7th place, the Stormers, the bonus point, take them out to 40 points. At the moment, that would put them in 4th place. They would only gain 1 spot. And that, of course, is contingent on how Munster does. But the Stormers now need to continue to win. There's 7 wins, 5 losses, and they really need I don't think they need to win out, but they need to be close to winning out the rest of the way. 6 games left in the season, 18-game season. Every team has played 12 games. The Sharks have climbed out of the basement where they've been all season. With their second victory, they're now in 14th out of 16 teams, 14 points on the log. But even if they win the next 6 games, they wind up at 8 and 10 best case. And that would be respectable, but still not going to have a winning record this year. And that's what's going on with that, folks. As far as the Shields, they finally updated on the season. So in the Irish Shield, it's Leinster, Ulster. Let me just show you that. So what's going on over here? Let me show you that. So put it over here. And come on, where are we at? Screen. There we go. So the Irish Shield has Leinster, Ulster, Connacht, and Munster. Okay. All 4 of which are in playoff. No, Munster's not in playoff. Excuse me. Yeah. Wait a second, that's not right. That's last year. Oh, man, they put bad stats up. That's crap from last year. Never mind. Disregard that. Gee, many crickets. It's very irritating. Okay, so no hassles. Okay, cool, Reno. No, Nexus thought I abandoned Super Rugby altogether. It's boring. It's lame. I have no interest in it whatsoever. I used to watch a bit of the Gallagher Cup or whatever they called it for New Zealand. I used to watch that occasionally, but I don't even watch that anymore. So what is going on with this YouTube today? Ulrich Fenter's here. Welcome to you. Yeah, I don't follow Super Rugby at all. I follow Curry Cup, Major League Rugby, URC, Test Rugby. I no longer follow the Sevens because they've destroyed the sport. It's not worth my time. And I don't follow English Premier. And I don't follow the French Pro 14, Top 14, whatever it's called. Yeah, it's just not my cup of tea. But in the Major League Rugby, so USMLR, let's take a look at that. So, schedule, here we go. There we go, standings, okay. So, Houston is in first place, 4 wins, no losses. San Diego 3 wins, a loss. Seattle 3 wins, a loss. Then Dallas 2-2, Utah 1-3, and the former Atlanta franchise now with Los Angeles 1 win, 3 losses. In the Eastern Conference, it's New England 3-1, New Orleans 3-1, Chicago 1-2 and 1. They had a draw. Old Glory 1-2-1 with a draw. Miami 1-3. They actually won a game, and then the New Carolina franchise 0 wins, 4 losses. So. Yeah, it's good to see that Dallas has improved now that they've been around for a couple seasons. Also good to see the Chicago Hounds, who got competitive late last season, actually won a game and had a draw so far. So good start for them. Curling. Curling's a lot of fun, man. Curling's a lot of fun. It's fun to watch that. So anyway, yeah. All right, so it's Friday. I'll be back on the air in 3.5 hours for the Bulls versus Leinster, folks. Looking forward to that one. Yeah, so please tune in for that. Looking forward to it. Hope to see you join me for that one. It will be nice and epic. So cool beans. All right.
Cool beans. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here, folks. An hour into the broadcast. Thanks for the super chat, Andreo. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Be sure to hit the like button. This is a low-viewed stream. I hope it's because it was unannounced and it was short notice. I hope it's not for another reason. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening. We really appreciate you being here. And take care of yourselves. Be safe out there this weekend. All right? I will be home on Easter Sunday working on my taxes, and we'll do a broadcast on Easter Sunday. Not doing any campaigning that day. It's not going to knock on people's doors and irritate them there. That's not what I wanted. I want the closing. Here we go. There it is.